I caught my stepmom. Cheating on my disabled dad, she yelled, "I wish you were silent like your pathetic father," then locked me out of the house. What happened next made her regret it. Sup Reddit. I was 12, translating my stepmom's lies to my deaf dad for years, until the day I walked into their bedroom and saw something I couldn't unsee. I, 27 male now, and my life shifted when my mom died when I was 5. Car accident. Quick. No suffering. At least that's what dad told me when I was old enough to ask. I barely remember her. My dad's deaf and works as an ASL interpreter. Handles legal cases, depositions, courtrooms, the whole deal. Dad raised me solo for about 2 years after that. We figured it out. He taught me ASL young. I was fluent by 7, and we had our routines. Breakfast together. Him dropping me at school, picking me up, helping with homework through signs and written notes. It was quiet, but it was good. When I was 7, Dad met someone. Her name was Maribel. She was a receptionist at one of the law firms he worked with, all big smiles and compliments, acting like she was so impressed by his work. She learned basic signs. Hello, thank you, the bare minimum. But mostly she just talked at him while I translated. Even at 7, something felt off about her. The way she'd touch his arm too much, laugh too loud at things that weren't funny, compliment the house when she came over for dinner. Dad was lonely. I get that now. Back then, I just knew he seemed happier when she was around. They got married when I was 8. Maribel moved into our house with 2 suitcases and a smile that didn't reach her eyes when she looked at me. I was baggage, even if she never said it out loud back then. You could tell in the way she'd sigh when Dad asked her to help me with something, or how she'd buy herself nice things but forget to get me the school supplies I needed. Maribel worked late constantly, except she'd come home smelling like restaurant food and perfume, not the stale office smell Dad had when he came back from depositions. She'd laugh on the phone with friends, hanging up quick if I walked into the kitchen. There was always some story about why she needed more money, some bill that came up, some emergency expense. Dad would just nod and sign back that it was fine. He'd handle it. There were other breadcrumbs I picked up as a kid. Random dudes at the door sometimes when Dad was at work, hugging Maribel too long, hand on her lower back like they were more than friends. And the worst part? I was her translator. Dad couldn't hear her lies, couldn't catch the edge in her voice when she was lying to him. So she'd say whatever she wanted, and I'd sign it. Tell your father I'll be home by 9. Tell him I need $300 for car repairs. Tell him I love him. That last one always made my stomach turn because I could tell she didn't mean it. But what was I supposed to do? I was a kid, so I signed what she said and watched Dad believe every word. She never bonded with me, never helped with homework unless Dad specifically asked, never came to my school stuff unless Dad dragged her along. I was just this obstacle she had to tolerate to keep her meal ticket happy. And Dad? He had no idea. He'd ask me if Maribel and I were getting along okay, and I'd sign back fine because what else could I say? That his wife treated me like I was some stray he'd brought home? By the time I was 10, I knew she'd married him for money. Not love, not family, just financial security. Dad worked his butt off. Long hours, tough cases, traveling to different courts. And she'd spend his paycheck on herself while I wore hand-me-downs from neighbors and ate whatever I could scrounge from the pantry when she forgot to buy groceries. I missed my real mom. I didn't remember much, but I remembered she actually gave a darn. Maribel? She was just playing house until something better came along. The day. Everything changed. I was 12 when I walked in on her. It was a Wednesday. Half day at school because of teacher conferences or some administrative thing. I don't remember the exact reason, just that I got out early. Dad was working a full day at a courthouse downtown. Wouldn't be home until after 5. I figured I'd come home, play video games, enjoy having the house to myself. I walked in through the front door, dropped my backpack in the hallway. The house was quiet, but I heard something upstairs. Not loud, just noises, muffled voices, movement. For a second, I thought maybe someone had broken in. I should have called Dad, or called the cops, or done literally anything else. Instead, I went upstairs. The master bedroom door was cracked open. I pushed it wider, and immediately wished I hadn't. Maribel was in bed with some guy I'd never seen before. Not just sitting there. In bed. Together. Doing exactly what you think they were doing. She saw me first. Screamed. Scrambled to cover herself. The guy, some scraggly-looking dude with a goatee and a cheap chain around his neck, just froze like a deer in headlights. I stood there. Couldn't move, couldn't talk, couldn't process what I was seeing. This was my dad's wife, in my dad's bed, with some random loser who looked like he'd never held a job longer than 2 weeks. Maribel started yelling at me. Get out! Get out of here, David! I was 12 and panicking, and the only adult button I knew to press was the one they taught us in school for emergencies. So I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. There's a man in my house, I told the operator. My voice was shaking. My stepmom, I don't know who he is. I need help. The operator stayed on the line with me while I went back downstairs. Maribel came flying out of the bedroom, wrapped in a sheet, screaming at me to hang up the phone. You little brat, what did you do? Hang up right now. The guy came down too, pulling his clothes on, looking like he wanted to bolt but didn't know if he should. He kept saying, "It's not what it looks like, kid," which was hilarious because it was exactly what it looked like. The cops showed up maybe 10 minutes later. Two officers, both looking annoyed like they'd been pulled away from something more important. They talked to Maribel first. She put on the waterworks, said I was confused, that this was her personal trainer, and we just had a misunderstanding. The guy backed her up, said he was there for a workout session at noon, in her bedroom. Right. The cops talked to me next. I told them what I saw. They looked uncomfortable, asked if I was sure about what I'd seen. Yeah, I was sure. You don't unsee that. But here's the thing about affairs. They're not illegal. Cops can't do anything about them. The officers told Maribel and the guy to sort this out like adults, and left. Just like that. I'd called for help and they couldn't do anything because no law had been broken. As soon as the door closed behind them, Maribel turned on me. You're a little snitch. You know that? She was still wrapped in that sheet, face red, makeup smeared from fake crying for the cops. You ruined everything. This is your fault. My fault? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're the one who... Shut up. Just shut up. She stepped closer, and I backed away. You think you're so smart calling the cops on me? You think your precious daddy's gonna thank you for this? The guy had already left, snuck out the back door like the coward he was. It was just me and Maribel now, and she was coming completely unglued. You know what your problem is, David? Her voice dropped low, venomous. You're just like him. Useless. A burden. I wish you were silent and deaf like your father, so I wouldn't have to hear your pathetic voice anymore. That line hit me like a slap. Not just because it was cruel, but because she meant it. She wanted me broken, disabled, anything that would make me less of a problem for her. And you're not even my real kid, she added, like that somehow made it worse. You're just his baggage I had to deal with. I never wanted you here. I'd known that deep down. Known she didn't give a darn about me. But hearing her say it out loud was different. I'm telling Dad, I said. It came out weaker than I wanted. Like a kid on the playground. Not the tough move I was going for. But it was all I had left. She laughed. Actually laughed in my face. Oh my God, you're such a baby. I'm telling Dad. What are you, 5? You think he's gonna believe you over me? He will when I show him... Show him what? Your little tantrum? The fact that you barged into our bedroom without knocking? She crossed her arms, that smug look spreading across her face. You invaded my privacy, David. You're the problem here. And if you run crying to Daddy like the little brat you are, I'll make sure he knows exactly how you've been acting out. How you've been disrespectful. How you've been trying to come between us since day one. That's not... Oh, sweetie. Her voice turned syrupy, mocking. Did you really think you could compete with me? I'm his wife. You're just a kid. Dead weight we're stuck with because your dad can't hear you crying. She grabbed my arm, dragged me to the front door, and shoved me outside. Hard. I stumbled down the porch steps and barely caught myself. Then she slammed the door and I heard the lock click. I was 12 years old, locked out of my own house, sitting on the curb in my school clothes while my stepmom's mess sat inside like a bomb waiting to blow up my dad's life. I didn't have my phone. She'd knocked it out of my hand during the shoving. Didn't have keys. Couldn't get back in. So I just sat there on the curb and waited for Dad to come home from work. 3 hours. That's how long I waited. Felt like days. Dad pulled into the driveway around 5:30. I saw his car coming down the street and stood up, brushed dirt off my jeans. He got out, saw me standing there, and my face must have said it all because his expression immediately shifted. Concerned. Confused. He signed to me. Why are you outside? Where's Maribel? I signed back. We need to talk. Now. He unlocked the front door. Maribel was in the kitchen, acting like nothing had happened. She'd cleaned herself up, changed clothes, put on fresh makeup, smiled at Dad when he walked in like she'd had a totally normal day, like she hadn't just been with some random dude in their bedroom 4 hours earlier. Dad signed to me. What's wrong? I took a breath and started signing everything. What I'd seen, who I'd seen, what Maribel had said to me, what she'd called him, how she'd locked me out. My hands were shaking, but I got through it. Dad's expression changed in stages. First confusion, then disbelief, then something I'd never seen on his face before. Pure, controlled rage. He didn't yell, obviously. Didn't shout or slam things. He just went very, very still. Then he turned to Maribel. She must have read it on his face because she started talking fast, making excuses. He's lying. He's confused. It was innocent. You don't understand. Dad held up one hand, stopped her mid-sentence. Then she did something I'll never forget. She grabbed a notepad off the kitchen counter and started scribbling frantically. Held it up to Dad. He's lying. Been acting out for weeks. Jealous of me. Saw my friend helping move furniture. Twisted it into something sick. He hates me. Always trying to make me look bad. He's manipulating you. I felt my stomach drop. She was good. Real good. Playing the victim, making me sound like some disturbed kid with a vendetta. Dad read the note. Then he looked at me. Really looked at me. I could see him weighing it. His wife of 4 years versus his 12-year-old son. Who do you believe when it's one person's word against another? I signed to him, hands trembling. Dad, I'm not lying. I swear on everything. I saw them. I know what I saw. She told me you were a deaf burden, and that I was keeping her from what she deserved. She locked me outside for hours. Maribel grabbed the pen again, writing fast. More lies. Making me sound like a monster. Probably rehearsed this waiting for you. Would I risk everything? He's unstable. Dad stood there for what felt like forever. Then he turned to Maribel and did something I'd never seen him do before. He started signing directly at her, even though she barely knew ASL. Big, aggressive signs. The kind you make when you want someone to feel the weight of every single word, even if they can't understand the language. You, made, a, mistake, lying, to, me. She stared at him, confused, probably catching maybe one word in 5. Didn't matter. His face said everything his hands were spelling out. Dad walked straight to their bedroom and started grabbing her stuff. Clothes out of the closet, shoes, makeup from the bathroom, armfuls of her stuff. He carried it all downstairs and threw it out the front door onto the lawn. Every piece. Her expensive dresses, her jewelry box, her toiletries, all of it. Maribel followed him, screaming now. You can't do this. This is my house, too. You're being insane. You're choosing to believe a child over me? Dad kept signing to her even though she couldn't understand. Didn't matter. His message was crystal clear. Get out. She switched tactics. Started crying, begging, saying she'd made a mistake but she loved him. She'd change. Please don't do this. The whole performance. Dad didn't even look at her. Just kept clearing out her stuff like she was garbage being taken to the curb. When the bedroom was empty of anything belonging to her, Dad went to his office and pulled out paperwork. He'd had a prenup. Smart man. He'd seen enough courtrooms to know better than to marry someone without one. She'd signed it 4 years ago, probably too blinded by dollar signs to read the fine print. That prenup was about to save his butt. Maribel finally realized he was serious. Then she turned to me. And you, she hissed, stepping closer. You little brat. You just ruined your own life. I will make you regret this. I'll tell everyone what a disturbed, lying little freak you are. You think your dad's going to protect you? He can't even hear you scream. Something snapped in me. I stepped forward. He doesn't need to hear me, I said, voice shaking but loud. He just needs to see you for what you are. And he does now. You're the liar. You're the one who's messed up. And you're going to leave with nothing because you're a cheater and everyone's going to know it. Dad saw her move toward me. Saw her face. He stepped between us, one hand on my shoulder, the other pointing at the door. The look on his face would have stopped a charging bull. She backed off, grabbed what she could carry from the lawn and left. Drove off in her car, the one Dad had paid for, of course, screeching out of the driveway like a teenager throwing a tantrum. I thought that was the end of it. Stupid of me. For the next few weeks, she tried everything. Lawyers, letters, threats through mutual friends. Tried to claim abuse, neglect, incompetence. Tried to say Dad was unfit because of his disability. Every angle she could think of. Dad's lawyer shut it all down. The prenup held. My testimony, backed up by text message timestamps, neighbor statements, and the fact that I was a straight-A kid with zero history of behavioral issues, buried any claim she tried to make about me being a liar. The divorce was fast. Maribel's lawyer tried to argue she deserved more, that she'd been a homemaker and stepmother and contributed to the household. Dad's lawyer brought out the prenup, the affair evidence, and my testimony about what I'd witnessed and what she'd said to me. The judge didn't need a long hearing. I was 12, old enough to tell them what happened, and I told the truth. Maribel had no parental rights to me. She was just Dad's wife, never my legal parent. She'd been married to him for 4 years, that was it. She left the marriage with almost nothing, thanks to the prenup and her own terrible behavior. Within 6 months, the divorce was finalized, and Maribel was gone from our lives. Dad never badmouthed her to me afterward. Didn't need to. His silence said enough. 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized, I thought we were done with Maribel's nonsense. Dad and I had settled back into our old rhythm. Breakfast together, him signing about work stuff, me complaining about algebra homework. The house felt lighter without her in it. No fake smiles, no random dudes showing up, no more translating lies, just us figuring things out like we always had. It was a Tuesday morning. Dad was making eggs. I was half awake at the kitchen table scrolling through my phone when someone knocked on the front door. Not a friendly knock. The official kind. 3 solid raps that make your stomach drop even when you haven't done anything wrong. Dad looked at me, eyebrows up. I shrugged and went to answer it. 2 people stood on the porch. Woman in her 40s with a county badge clipped to her belt. Guy next to her holding a tablet like he was ready to take notes on everything. The woman's face had that practiced, neutral expression. Not mean, not nice, just there to do a job. Is your father home? She asked. Yeah, he's here. What's this about? She showed me the badge properly. I'm from Child Protective Services. We received a report and need to speak with your father and conduct a home visit. I brought them inside. Dad saw them, saw the badges, and his whole body language shifted. Not panicked, just very, very still. The way he'd gone still when I told him about Maribel. That controlled kind of anger that doesn't need volume. He pulled out his phone, typed something, showed it to her. I'm deaf. My son will interpret. What is this about? She nodded, speaking slowly even though she didn't need to. I was right there. We received a report alleging that due to your disability, you're unable to properly care for your son. The report claims he's been neglected, missing school, no proper supervision, living in unsafe conditions. I started signing before she even finished talking. Dad's jaw tightened. His hands moved sharp and precise. Who made this report? I signed back. We can't disclose that information, she said. But we take all reports seriously and need to verify the claims. Dad's hands spelled out exactly 2 signs. Maribel. The woman's expression didn't change, but the guy with the tablet shifted his weight. They knew. Of course they knew. Bitter ex-wife with an axe to grind wasn't exactly a new story for them. May we look around the house? She asked. Dad gestured for them to go ahead. Knock yourselves out. They walked through every room, opened the fridge, fully stocked, meal-prepped containers, labeled with days of the week, because Dad was organized like that. Checked my bedroom. Clean. Homework on my desk. No signs of neglect unless you count the pile of dirty laundry I'd been avoiding. Looked at the bathroom, the pantry. Meanwhile, she asked me questions. How was school? Was I getting enough food? Did I feel safe? Did my dad ever leave me alone for long periods? I answered everything straight. Yeah, school's fine. Honor roll last semester, actually. Dad makes sure I eat, probably too much. I feel safe. He works normal hours, same as any parent. Sometimes I'm home alone for a bit after school, but I'm 12, not 5. I have a phone. I know how to microwave leftovers. The guy with the tablet pulled up my school records on his device. Attendance, near perfect. Grades, solid. Behavioral issues, 0. They asked Dad about his work, his schedule, his support system. He showed them his calendar, his clients, proof of steady income. Gave them the name of our neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who'd known us for years and could vouch that I wasn't some abandoned kid raising myself. The woman made a phone call, talked to someone for maybe 5 minutes, hung up, looked at Dad and me. The school confirms he's doing well. Your neighbor confirmed she sees you both regularly and has never had concerns. The home is clean, adequately supplied, and there's no evidence supporting the allegations in the report. Dad's shoulders dropped just slightly. Relief he wouldn't show anywhere else. We'll be closing this case as unfounded, she continued. You should receive official documentation within a few days. I apologize for the disruption. They were there less than an hour total. By the time they left, I could tell it wasn't going anywhere. After they drove off, Dad and I stood in the kitchen. He looked tired. Not the normal kind of tired from work. The kind that comes from realizing someone's willing to weaponize your disability to hurt you. He signed to me. She used what I can't do against me. I signed back. They didn't believe her. Nobody did. Dad nodded. But something had shifted. Before, Maribel had just been a cheating liar. Now she was someone who'd tried to use the system, use his deafness, to take me away from him, to prove he wasn't capable of being my father, because he couldn't hear me if I called for help. That's a different kind of evil. The official letter came 4 days later. Report unfounded. Case closed. Maribel had taken her best shot using the one thing Dad couldn't defend himself against directly, his disability, and it hadn't even left a scratch. But we both knew she'd tried, and that was enough to make sure we'd never let our guard down again. 15 years later, fast forward to present day. I'm 27, working at a mid-sized consulting firm, making decent money, living in my own place. Dad and I still have breakfast every Sunday, our tradition since I was a kid. He's semi-retired now, only takes the cases he wants, spends the rest of his time woodworking and teaching ASL classes at the community college. I hadn't heard Maribel's name in 15 years. Didn't think about her, didn't wonder where she ended up, didn't care. She was a closed chapter in our lives. Then she walked into my office building. I was in a meeting when our receptionist buzzed my desk. "David, there's someone here to see you. She says it's urgent." I wasn't expecting anyone. "Who is it?" "She says she's your mother." My stomach dropped. "I'll be right out." I walked to the lobby, and there she was. Maribel, 15 years older, looking like she'd been through hell. Hair unwashed, clothes dirty, skin sallow and covered in sores. She'd aged 20 years in 15. That's what addiction does. She saw me and her face lit up. That desperate, manic kind of happy that makes your skin crawl. "David! Oh my gosh, David, you look so good. So grown up." Everyone in the lobby was watching. Co-workers, clients, the receptionist who'd buzzed me. I could feel their eyes. "Outside," I said. "Now." I led her out to the parking lot, away from windows, away from people who knew me. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "I needed to see you. I've been trying to call, but your number's changed, and I didn't know how else to reach you." She was talking fast. "I need your help, David. I'm in real trouble." "How did you find out where I work?" I asked around. "Your dad's still listed in some directories. I called his old workplace. They mentioned you were doing well. Someone who knew where you worked." She waved her hand like the details didn't matter. "That's not important. What's important is I need money." Of course she did. "For what?" I asked. "To get back on my feet. I'm living in a shelter right now. I lost my apartment. I need to get into a program, but it costs money and I don't have any." "A program for what?" She hesitated. Then, because she was desperate enough to be honest, "Pills. I've been using and I need to get clean, but I can't afford rehab." There it was. The truth under all the nonsense. She was an addict, broke, homeless, and she thought I'd bail her out. "No," I said. "David, please. No. I'm not giving you money. I raised you." Her voice pitched higher, louder. "I was there for you when you were growing up. I helped take care of you. And now I'm asking for help, and you're just going to abandon me?" "You didn't raise me," I said slowly, clearly. "You were married to my dad for 4 years when I was a kid. You cheated on him, locked me out of the house, told me you wished I was deaf, and called CPS on him out of spite. You didn't do anything for me except make my childhood worse. So no, I'm not giving you money. Not now, not ever. You're heartless," she spat. "Your dead mom would be ashamed of you." That one almost got me. Almost. But I held it together. "My real mom's been gone since I was 5, I said. "You're not her. You never were. You were just a gold digger who married a lonely man for financial security and bailed when the gravy train ended. Now leave before I call security." She started crying. Big, ugly sobs. "I'm going to die without help, David. I need this money for my medication, for treatment. Then leave before I call security." She backed away, still crying, stumbling toward the street. When I got back to my desk, I sat down and tried to focus on work. Couldn't. My hands were shaking from adrenaline. Then I called my building's security and reported that someone had harassed me in the parking lot. They took my statement, pulled the lobby footage showing her coming in, noted her description. That night, Maribel called me. I saw it was an unknown number, but something told me to answer and to record it. "David, I'm sorry about earlier. I was emotional and I said things I didn't mean. But I really need your help. Just $5,000 to get into a program. That's all I'm asking." I stayed quiet. Let her talk. Let her dig herself deeper. "If you don't help me, I don't know what I'll do. I'm desperate, David. I need pills. I need medication. I can't function without them. Just help me this once, and I'll never bother you again." "You're asking me to give you money to buy drugs," I said flatly. "It's medication. You don't have a prescription. It's illegal. And you just admitted on this call, which I'm recording, that you need money for pills. That's solicitation of drug money." Silence. Then, "You're recording this?" "Yes." "You can't do that." "I can. This state allows one-party consent for recordings. You just told me twice now That you need money to purchase controlled substances. That's a crime, Maribel. She hung up. The next morning, I went to the courthouse and filed for a restraining order. Brought printouts of the workplace incident report, the parking lot footage, the recording where she explicitly asked for drug money. The clerk looked over everything, nodded, and said it would be reviewed. A temporary restraining order was granted within 48 hours. Maribel had to stay at least 500 feet away from me, my home, and my workplace. No contact of any kind. I thought that would be the end of it. Maribel violated the restraining order 3 days after it was served. She showed up at my apartment building at 7 in the morning. I was leaving for work when I saw her sitting on a bench outside, waiting. The second she spotted me, she stood up and started walking toward me. David, we need to talk about this. I pulled out my phone. You're violating a restraining order. Leave now or I'm calling the police. You don't understand, I just need to explain. I dialed 911. I need to report a restraining order violation. The person it's against is currently at my location refusing to leave. Maribel kept talking, kept trying to get closer. I stayed on the line with dispatch, gave them my address, confirmed the restraining order was active. 10 minutes later, 2 cops rolled up. They talked to her first. She went into full victim mode, crying, saying I was her son and she just wanted to reconnect, that I was being cruel and heartless. The officers came over to me, checked my ID, confirmed the restraining order in their system. Do you want to press charges? One of them asked. Yes. They arrested her. Right there, in front of my building, in front of neighbors watching from windows. Cuffed her and put her in the back of a cruiser while she screamed about how I was doing this to her and tearing the family apart. She spent the night in jail, got released the next day on bail. I got a court date for a month out. That should have scared her off. Normal people would have backed off after getting arrested. But Maribel wasn't normal people. She was an addict with nothing left to lose. Over the next few weeks, she called me 17 times from different numbers. Left voicemails begging for money, for just one more chance, for help getting medication. Started sending packages to my apartment. Nothing inside, just empty boxes with notes scribbled on them. Please, David. I'm your mother. You owe me. I documented everything. Every call, every voicemail, every package. Timestamps, recordings, photos. Built a file 3 inches thick. The final straw came when she left a voicemail that was different from the rest. Her voice was slurred, rambling, but clear enough. David, listen. I know you're mad, but I found a guy who can help me. He's got good stuff, real medication, none of that street garbage. He's behind the Dollar General on 5th Street, comes by every Friday around 6. If you just gave me $300, I could get enough to last the month and I wouldn't have to bother you. He's got Oxy, perks, whatever I need. Please, baby, just this once. She'd just described her drug dealer. Location, schedule, product, on a recorded line. That recording went straight into the folder with everything else I'd been collecting. Next morning, I walked into the police station with my documentation binder and asked to file a formal complaint. The officer who took it looked like he'd heard every sob story twice. I set the binder on his desk. 3 inches of printed voicemails, text screenshots, package photos, all labeled by date and cross-referenced with the restraining order. I've got a restraining order against my ex-stepmother. She's violated it repeatedly to ask me for drug money. I recorded her describing her dealer, the location, what she buys, how often. I pulled out my phone and hit play. He listened to the whole thing. Maribel's voice clear as day, talking about her dealer behind the Dollar General, pills, buying in bulk, cash only, Fridays. When it finished, he leaned back and started flipping through the binder. Didn't say anything for a solid 2 minutes. Just read, checked dates, replayed parts of the recording, finally looked up. He nodded slowly. We'll need your full statement. This is enough for solicitation charges and multiple restraining order violations. Possibly conspiracy depending on what else we find. I spent the next 3 hours walking him through everything. He had me initial each page, sign off on the recording's authenticity, confirm dates and times. By the time we finished, it was past noon, and I had a case number. We'll move on this fast, he said. Evidence like this doesn't need much investigation. A week later, he called me. Surveillance had confirmed the dealer's routine. Same spot, same day, every week. By Friday, they moved in and arrested both of them outside the Dollar General. They found pills in the dealer's car. Enough quantity plus baggies and a burner phone that made them file distribution charges. Found pills in Maribel's purse she'd just bought. No prescription. Enough that combined with the recording and her admission of regular purchases, they didn't hesitate calling it possession with intent. Text messages they pulled from her phone showed she'd been arranging pickups for other people too. That was enough to call it conspiracy. She wasn't just buying, She was coordinating. Your recording started it, but the arrest sealed it, he told me. She's looking at multiple felonies. They called me a week later. They were filing everything. Solicitation, conspiracy, possession with intent, 4 counts of violating the restraining order. She's looking at 3 to 5 years if this goes to trial. We're offering 18 months county, mandatory rehab, 3 years supervised probation. She violates probation. She does 2 more years in state prison. Is she taking it? Her public defender's pushing hard. Your evidence would destroy her in front of a jury. She signed the plea a few days later. The sentencing hearing was quick. I sat in the back while Maribel stood in orange, looking 10 years older than the last time I'd seen her. Her public defender did his job, talked about addiction, difficult circumstances, the need for treatment over punishment. The judge cut him off. Miss Torres, you violated a restraining order multiple times to solicit money for illegal drugs. You were recorded admitting to months of illegal purchases. You were arrested in possession of those drugs. The court sees a clear pattern of criminal behavior and disregard for legal boundaries. Maribel kept her head down. 18 months county jail, mandatory inpatient rehabilitation upon release, 3 years supervised probation. You're prohibited from any contact with Mr. Hayes during your sentence and probation period. If you violate probation, you'll serve an additional 2 years in state prison. Yes, Your Honor, Maribel said quietly. The bailiff let her out. She shuffled away in chains and didn't look back once. I left the courthouse feeling like I'd just closed a file. Job done, moving on. 2 months later, the county jail called. Somehow I was still listed as an emergency contact. They said she'd been hospitalized after an incident, was asking to speak to me. You have the restraining order on file. Remove my name from her records. Sir, we need authorization. Remove it now, or I'm filing a complaint for facilitating prohibited contact in violation of a court order. They handled it within the hour. Haven't heard her name since. Don't know if she finished her sentence, got clean, relapsed, ended up dead in a motel somewhere. Don't care. She was my dad's mistake for 4 years when I was a kid. That's it. She thought showing up crying would guilt me into being her personal ATM. Instead, she handed me everything I needed to put her away. Dad and I talked about it over steaks at his place last month, signing across the table like we've done for 20 years. You did what you had to do, he signed. He was right. She made her choices. I made mine. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.